Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
All right, hello, and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. Our show is a production of our nonprofit organization, the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF, and its affiliated political committee, Campaign for the Restoration and Regulation of Hemp, or TCRRH. We have an exciting show for you tonight. I'm going to wait till the guests actually show up here before I announce them. But we have a couple of guests that should be popping in our studio any moment now. We'll talk about tomorrow's Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards. We've got Mr. Tim Pate here to provide musical accompaniment back from his sojourn and near-death experience. Might talk about that if we have the time. We'll be taking your phone calls as we always do, and we have a very interesting film clip of one of my patients getting their medicine, so we'll be talking about that too. So stay tuned, and we're going to get a little break as we show you, as we always do, our infamous dancing cannabis leaves. Our first story tonight comes from Washington, D.C., as the House Judiciary Leader is criticizing the DEA's attacks on medical cannabis dispensaries. Efforts by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, the evil empire, also known as the DEA, if you put a D on the end of it, that's dead, urging landlords in California to evict tenants who legally dispense medical cannabis to state-authorized patients, has drawn public criticism from U.S. Congressman John Conyers, a Democrat from Michigan, and he's the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee. In a statement issued Friday by the 21-term congressman, Conyers said, quote, "I'm deeply concerned about recent reports that the Drug Enforcement Administration is threatening private landlords with asset forfeiture and possible imprisonment if they refuse to evict organizations legally dispensing medical marijuana to suffering patients." The committee's already questioned the DEA about its efforts to undermine California state law on this subject. We intend to sharply question this specific tactic as part of our oversight efforts, end quote. In July, the DEA administrators mailed letters to dozens of landlords in Los Angeles warning owners that they risk arrest and up to 20 years in prison and the loss of their property if they continue renting to cannabis dispensaries. Since they have time, similar letters have been sent to the landlords of other medicinal cannabis providers throughout the state, including several in San Francisco, leading to the closure of various high-profile dispensaries. Last week, the Arts District Healing Center, a Los Angeles-based medical cannabis provider, filed a federal lawsuit in U.S. District Court claiming that the DEA extorted its landlord by sending a letter threatening imprisonment and property seizure. House oversight hearings regarding the DEA's action are anticipated to take place early next year. A transcript of Representative Conyers' remarks appear online at judiciary.house.gov. That's judiciary.house.gov. Our next story is also from Washington, and marijuana law deprioritization measures coincide with significant long-term reductions in teen cannabis use. Self-reported rates of adolescent marijuana use are declining at the same time that numerous states and municipalities are removing criminal penalties on the use of cannabis by patients and minor offenders, according to NORML Executive Director Alan St. Pierre. He said that today in response to a White House report touting a 25% reduction in teen cannabis use from 2001 to 2007. St. Pierre said, quote, "The sharp decline in adolescent marijuana use cited by the White House actually began in 1997, 1 year after voters in California enacted legislation approving the legal use of cannabis by authorized patients, and this downward trend has continued since that time. During this same period, 12 states, that's with more than 1/5 of the U.S. population, have enacted laws allowing for the authorized possession and cultivation of medical marijuana. In addition, numerous large municipalities, such as Denver, Colorado, and Seattle, Washington, have enacted laws making the investigation and prosecution of minor marijuana offenders the city's lowest priority enforcement. According to St. Pierre, quote, in every case, these measures were opposed by law enforcement and the drug czar's office on the premise that they would greatly increase teen marijuana use. However, as this week's White House briefing shows, these legal changes have coincided with a long-term significant reduction in adolescent cannabis use. It's evident that the drug czar fears were unfounded then, and they're unfounded now. The continued opposition by the White House and law enforcement personnel to the enactment of these compassionate and common-sense legal reforms has nothing to do with protecting public safety or addressing teen drug use. These groups' zealous opposition to marijuana law reforms more closely tied to their addiction to bloated budgets and maintaining control over the general public through the coercive tactics associated with criminal prohibition, end quote. That's a quote from NORML's director, Alan St. Pierre. Our last story tonight is from Italy, from Perugia, Italy. Patients with a history of migraine headaches may be suffering from a clinical deficiency of the endocannabinoid system, according to clinical trial data published in the European Journal of Clinical Pharmacology. Investigators at Italy's University of Perugia Department of Public Health reported that patients with chronic migraines possessed, quote, significantly lower, end quote, levels of the endogenous cannabinoid anandamide and 2-arachidondiglycerol, or 2-AG, in their platelets compared to age-matched controls. The researchers concluded, quote, these data support the potential involvement of a dysfunctioning of the endocannabinoid and serotonergic systems in the pathology of chronic migraine and medication overuse headaches. In close quote there. A previous paper published in the journal Neuroendocrinology letter similarly suggested that migraine and fibromyalgia and other treatment-resistant conditions may be associated with dysfunctions in the endocannabinoid system. The system is believed to play a primary role in regulating humans' mood, appetite, skeletal development, motor coordination, digestion, and reproduction. The full text of the study, Endocannabinoids in Platelets of Chronic Migraine Patients and Medication Overuse Headache Patients, Relation with Serotonin Levels, end quote, appears in the November issue of the European Journal of Clinical Pharmacology. Our last story tonight is from California, Lake County, from the Press Democrat. It's written by Glenda Anderson. Lake County marijuana advocates are circulating petitions to create a statewide ballot initiative to legalize marijuana, despite an apparent public backlash against the abuses associated with growing it for medicinal uses. The proposed initiative, which won state approval for circulation late last week, would prohibit marijuana's use for anyone under the age of 21 unless it was for medical reasons. It would also bar anyone from being subjected to state, criminal, or civil penalties for the possession, cultivation, transportation, distribution, or recreational use of cannabis. Use of marijuana, however, would remain in conflict with the federal laws prohibiting it. While outright legalization of cannabis has been tried before, proponents of California's Cannabis, Hemp, and Health Initiative of 2008 are optimistic. Eddie Lepp, the co-author of the initiative, said, quote, we're going to pass it, I guarantee it, end quote. He's known to cannabis activists worldwide for his advocacy, which resulted in his arrest for growing 32,500 marijuana plants in plain sight along a Lake County highway in August of 2004. That case is still pending. The petition needs 433,971 registered California voter signatures, representing 5% of the votes cast in the last gubernatorial election, to make it on the California 2008 ballot. Clear Lake Oaks resident Jack Hare, the initiative's primary author and the author of the seminal book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, has been trying unsuccessfully to qualify similar measures for the ballots in California, Oregon, and Alaska since the early 1970s. He said people will vote for it if he can convince them of the benefits, which he claims include adding several years to the average human lifespan. I think that's been backed up by research from Robert Melamede of Colorado State University. We'll have to have our interview with him and run it in the next couple of weeks. But that's the end of our Hemp News segment tonight. We have Mr. Tim Pate standing by. How are you doing, Tim?
I'm doing just fine, Paul. Thank you.
Good. So I understand that an onion almost claimed your life?
I like the way you put it last week on the show. Attack of the killer onion. Yes, it did.
Attack of the killer
I
onion.
have food allergies and went into an anaphylactic amoeba and just wiped out by one of the little red hot onions that the chefs like to hide in your pizza. And so after Thanksgiving, I ate it, and 18 days later, I feel just fine. So,
well, I'm glad you're feeling better. And you're ready to come on our show.
Yeah, and and since I've seen you last, we've been off air for a while. I was down at Eddie Lepp's. I got to play his Cannabis Cup down there.
Oh yeah, you had a big party down there at early November.
A week after that, I sad to announce that his wife Linda passed away.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yes, and so to have his story on there last, it's appropriate because I wanted to make that announcement tonight to so many of her friends and his friends out here.
Yeah,
that,
my condolences.
Our condolences to Eddie and
his
his family and everyone associated with him right now. I know he's sad about that, as we all are.
I can imagine. Yeah. I would be incredibly shocked as well.
That's
my
true.
condolences to him as well. And I just want to say that I now can announce our guests because they're here in the station. We have Madeline Martinez, the director of Oregon Normal, here with someone who's a longtime hero to me as well, and that's Mr. Keith Stropp, the founder of Normal back in, I think it was 71, but I'm sure he'll tell us here in just a few minutes.
Yes,
so
indeed.
Stand by for that.
Yeah, that's very exciting. I'm glad.
So you got a song for us tonight?
I do. I figure, since we have this this cup tomorrow, that it's important to us here in Oregon. We really do think it's important to have good medicine for the patients. And so having said that, we've been growing medicine up here, and there's so many good farmers that we just decided to have competition some years back, and I think this is the 5th year we're having this farmers competition for growing, and that's 6th year. Madeline's standing back in the back of the studio saying 6. So anyway, 6th year for doing a cup, and it's really a cool thing. So I figured I'd do Let's All Be Farmers tonight. Well, let's all be farmers and save the trees. 1 acre of hemp would save a forest, please. Let's all be farmers and get filthy rich. Instead, we're wrecking the planet. Oh, and it's beginning to bitch. Oh, let's all be farmers. The fear must stop. This is the new, the old, the original. Yeah, $1 billion crop. Oh, let's all be farmers. And save the seas. Oil without crude. Yeah, here, hemp oil's clean. Let's all be farmers. And end Exxon's reign. I can grow my own oil, thank you. And without the pain, let's all be farmers. Now that you know, well, who am I to tell you what you should grow? Let's all be farmers. Let's all be farmers. Let's all be farmers. And as we watch that last tree fall, what will a cry be? But goddamn, oh, we could have had them all. Let's all be farmers. Let's all be farmers. Let's all be farmers. Let's all be farmers. Let's all be farmers.
Tim. Very good job. We'll have him back at the close of the show. And I'd like to welcome you back, Madeline, and welcome you.
Nice to
Mr.
see you.
Strop, it's very good to see you. I think you just mentioned I had first met you at Don Fiedler's house back many years ago.
We were younger men then.
We were. I was a lot thinner.
By the way, back then, marijuana wasn't legal.
Yeah. I wish. Well, you got started in legalization when? When did you first?
You were almost right. It was 1970.
1970.
Yeah, we started normal in about October of that year.
I think it was probably 71 or 72 when, as a youngster in Dallas, Texas, I found in the trash behind someone's house 2 boxes of Playboy magazines.
Oh, my God.
That's where I found out about Normal, and it's changed my life. I've been emulating you ever since, Keith. So.
Well, I'll tell you, we were very lucky. Hugh Hefner adopted us early on. He was our first major funder, and the Playboy Foundation gave us enormous support during the 70s. And so it's true, I think, for millions of Americans, the first time they heard about Normal or even got an idea that maybe there was a serious effort underway to legalize marijuana, it was through Playboy magazine. They had millions of readers, and we were very lucky to benefit from that.
Well, of course, I had a purine interest as a youngster there.
I understand.
Developed, but what could I say?
Yes.
I want to tell our viewers out there that you can give us a call and ask Madeline or Keith Strop or myself a question about ending adult marijuana prohibition, restoring industrial hemp, or helping medical marijuana patients by calling us at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. We'll be taking calls right up to the top of the hour. So, Madeline, tomorrow's the big day.
Tomorrow's the big day we've been waiting for all year, and it's that time of year, so it's the Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards. Tomorrow, the doors open at 10 a.m. We'll be at the Aimbridge Event Center at 300 Northeast Multnomah, right here in beautiful Portland.
Okay, so that starts at 9 a.m.?
It starts at 10. The doors are going to actually open at 10.
Okay.
And our fashion show, don't let me forget to mention that. They have a fashion show starts at 11 a.m. Yes, and it goes on until about 12:30. And we'd love for you to come out and support hemp. We have about 17 vendors that are going to be selling anything from hemp. We have a gentleman coming in biofuel from Corvallis, Oregon, who actually retrofits diesel engines to take vegetable oil. Says it smells like French fries when the car is running, but I think it's very interesting.
Certainly is. I saw the hemp car many years ago as it came through here. I think it left the National Normal Convention, went through Canada, and came to the Seattle Hemp Fest. Stopped here on its way down the coast before it went back east again. That was running on 100% hemp seed oil that was provided by Hemp Oil Canada. And it's a pretty neat vehicle. We still have that video out on our I don't know if it's still on our website. I know we still have it.
Yeah, I know you do. It's great.
One year, I think we had 2 hemp cars at the Normal conference. I can't remember what year, but I remember they were parked out front, and both of them ran entirely on hemp oil. Yeah. So it clearly is feasible to do. Frankly, I have other uses for the plant I prefer, but I think that's fine. If
it
we've
has
got a
so
fuel
many
problem.
uses, you know, and not to denigrate any one. I think all of them are potentially very, very valuable, and it could be that I really think, and I'm a true believer, that hemp's a plant that's going to save our planet by transforming our economy away from the destructive practices that have led to worldwide ecological destruction to ecologically sustainable ones with hemp paper, hemp fuel, hemp clothing. And all we have to do first is legalize it so that the economies of scale can be met.
Well, and also, obviously, the big problem today is we had 831,000 people arrested last year on marijuana charges. So
it just keeps going up.
Yeah,
every
that's
year.
Right. Every year of our life it has gone up. When we started Normal, we thought it was terrible, and I think there were about 225,000 arrests a year. Mm-hmm. Well, we had 831,000 last year, and 88% were for simple possession, just marijuana smoking.
And I think if you go to the early 60s, it was like less than 10,000 arrests each year.
Well, I don't think it ever got quite that low, but you're right. There was a period when it was not considered such a big deal. For example, Giuliani, one of our, the presidential candidates, when he took over as mayor of New York, there were only 5,000 marijuana arrests a year. By the time he was finished, there were 55,000.
It was kind of like New York was a free zone there in the 70s.
Yes,
I remember visiting there
until
as
the mayor
a young 18-year-old, and going to see the movie The Who, The Kids Are All Right, and everybody in the whole theater was smoking.
And by the way, the current mayor is much better, I will say. The arrests are way back down again.
Bloomberg.
New York, Bloomberg, actually, we did a campaign, you may remember, where we quoted Bloomberg. He said himself sometime when he was first running for mayor, they asked him, he said they had heard he'd smoked marijuana, and he wasn't used to being a politician. He wasn't guarded, so he said, well, of course I did, and I enjoyed it, too.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and
I remember that.
It was true. We did a whole campaign. Somebody put up some money, and we couldn't use it to lobby because it was soft money, so we ran a whole campaign with pictures of the mayor saying that in buses in New York City.
Exactly. I remember seeing that on the news. It was very impressive.
He was very good about it, by the way. The mayor sent a message through a mutual friend and said he actually appreciated our humor.
Yeah, he seems like a really good guy. I like Bloomberg a lot more than Giuliani. Oh, wow.
Just your average run-of-the-mill billionaire, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
We have a caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show. And we always have to remind our viewers that this is an entirely volunteer show here, and we've got to get our video going and the audio going. Now, let's try that again. Viewer, can you hear me?
No, I think I have.
Oh, nope, they're gone.
Well. Call back.
Even though we're out here on the screen, there's about a dozen people behind the cameras and in the control room that are all volunteers, as are we, trying to put this show out there to educate the public about ending adult marijuana prohibition.
Exactly. You know, I want to tell people a little bit more about the Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards.
Please.
It's actually a strain evaluation where 28 registered patients with the program, the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program, participate. And they take 28 of the strains that we got this year. You know, we started out, Paul, and we only had 7 the first year.
I remember.
And now Paul's always entered. Yeah, that's right.
That very first year, I had 1.
This year we had 28, and actually a couple of people tried to enter a few more, and a couple of people had to get turned away because they didn't make the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
But it was pretty amazing to actually turn away entries because we never thought that was going to happen back in 2002. But yes, they've been evaluating these strains, our patients, since November the 16th. And tomorrow they'll submit their ballots, all finished up, to let us know how they affected their conditions.
I have heard from several of the judges that they've had trouble going through all of those samples in this time because they're so potent and good and there's so many of them. And I hear it's a pretty tough choice. That's what one person told me earlier today.
I heard it's pretty close.
Yeah. So what you don't know till the
tomorrow
ballots get turned in and you tabulate.
Yes.
Okay, let's try this again. We've got a caller. Hello, you're on our show.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Paul.
Go right ahead.
I have a unique situation where I've been an asthmatic for many years, and my situation is that I was my grandmother's caregiver for 7 years. She just could only afford to give me room and board. Occasionally she came up with a little bit for medicine, but she just passed away. And I'm looking at an unsure future. And the problem I have, and what I'd like you to help me with, is if you could give me some advice and what I could do about seeing a doctor, because you see, I have no money. Mm-hmm. And so there's no way I could go become evaluated and have my condition looked at if I can't even afford to hardly feed myself.
Yeah, that's understandable. There's several options you have out there. I don't know, do you have any sort of health care like the Oregon Health Plan or Medicaid?
Well, the Oregon Health Plan won't take anymore. They won't accept me.
Yeah. Well, there are some options out there for you to get your medical condition documented. There's the Multnomah County Health Department. There's Inside Out. We have a list of low-cost and no-cost medical facilities at our office. And so...
well, I've called your number. They told me they couldn't help me.
Well, try again is all I can say. Tell them you need the list of... low-cost and no-cost medical facilities, like the Multnomah County Health Department. And they're out there trying to help.
You mean the 235-460?
I know that the doctors that specialize in medical cannabis recommendations have to have some medical documentation that's relatively recent. So you've got to go out there and have some other form of medical care if you're going to go to a cannabis specialist. And once you go to those initial doctors, you might as well, if you're comfortable with it, ask them if they can help you. And if they can't, then you can come to
Well, you
us.
see, again, how am I going to pay to see somebody? I have no money.
Well, like I said, there are low-cost ones like the Multnomah County Health Department out there. They will see you for no cost, I believe, if you don't have any money. And
that information should have been given to me by your people at the other number.
Yeah, it should have been. I can't vouch for each person there.
Well, it wasn't.
Fairness of them 24
they told me
hours
they
a
couldn't
day.
help me.
What's that?
They told me they couldn't help me, that there's only so much that can be done.
Well, try again. Don't give up. That's all I can say.
So I need to keep trying until I find someone that's actually going to help me with that list. I should ask for the list?
Exactly. We do have that list there. Ask them for the list of Multnomah County low-cost health providers, and that's the place to start.
Low-cost health providers.
Yeah. Well, I can sympathize with your plight. I mean, we've all been broke at one point or another, but and without health care. I think most of us, anyway. Maybe not all of us. But, you just have to keep trying and be persistent, and eventually your persistence will pay off. So I wish you the best on that. If you're out there and you have a question for us tonight, give us a call at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. There you have it.
Paul, it sort of, I thought when I was listening to that caller, I'm from the East Coast, and I think on the West Coast, you people have such a wonderful thing going. And I mean, I really do, from Washington to Oregon to California and a lot of other states. You're worried about sophisticated problems that are important, like this fellow who doesn't have any income and doesn't know where to find medical care and get his recommendation when he has no money. Let me just say that that's a wonderful problem to have. In about 40 of the states, you understand, I guess 38 now, you don't have that option.
That's right.
There is no legal medical marijuana, and there's still tens of thousands of patients who are still smoking marijuana to deal with serious illnesses, but they're risking being arrested, they're having to buy their medicine on the black market. So even though the system isn't perfect in Oregon, let me tell you folks, I hope you appreciate what a wonderful system you have going, and what a great job Oregon Normal and some other folks have done to get you here.
Yeah, exactly.
So it may not be perfect, but boy, it's among the best I've seen.
Yeah, I certainly think so as well. We're really blessed that we have been able to get as far as we have, and we're not quite 100% of the way there to full legalization, which has always been my goal.
Sure,
Right.
sure.
But
I don't think it should matter why you smoke. I mean, you should have the right to smoke as long as you're not bothering anyone else. And that would cover religious use, medical use, personal use, recreational use. It shouldn't matter. It's none of the government's business. But I think most of us recognize that patients have a right to be at the front of the line.
Yeah.
You know, they're seriously ill.
Exactly.
I'm smoking because I enjoy smoking. I like the feeling I get from it. But I'm not using it as a medicine. So I'm more than willing for MS patients and cancer patients and those other folks to be in the front of the line. But the reality is we shouldn't have the state deciding why we're smoking. We should have the state backed up where they don't have any damn business in this decision. It's between us and ourselves. I mean, it's
that's the way it would be in a free society. I'm
Yes,
sure
it would.
Jefferson and Washington, hemp farmers in their own right, would be turning over in their grave if they knew what was going on today. Let's see. We have another call, and then we're going to go to a film clip. Hello, caller. You are on our show.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm just listening to your program here, and I'm a person with degenerative joint disease, but I have to go through NARA, which is a federal program, in order to get free medical because I am a Native American.
I see. We have a lot of folks that are Native American who receive health care through NORA who have medical marijuana permits, and most of the doctors there won't.
No, they're not. They're not actually allowed to.
Right, they're not allowed to, but they can diagnose your condition. Then there are specialists.
And they do that. But what I'm hearing is, I'm hearing other patients that aren't allowed to get on the program because they don't have the $125 or $150 to go through the PhD Foundation or such. And that's the same issue I've got.
Yeah. Well,
but
just like the fellow just before you.
And I'm stifled by our government.
I agree, and many of us have been stifled by the government at various points. But, you know, just today we had a couple of free people go through our clinic, and we do let free people go through, and a couple of people also had reduced rates below the $120. You know, other clinics around charge $200 or $250.
Yeah.
CHCF's cost is the lowest, and in addition to having the lowest cost, we also cut our fee for low-income people. So what I recommend is you go ahead and come in on the low-income bracket and come in and give your case to make your appointment. You know, first go to your clinic, get yourself your medical records, and then you can contact our office with that.
Excellent.
All right? But yeah, we let several people go through for free every week, and we never turn anyone down because of lack of money once they get their medical
thank you for your
record
time.
and inside our door. All right. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now we have a brief film clip we're going to run, and we'll be back in just a few minutes, so I hope you enjoy this. For several patients, including Judy. Judy, I've been growing for you for, what, about 4 or 5 years now? Initially, when I started growing for you, you had a partner, your husband, Sonny.
Right.
And I grew for both of you at that time. But then was it about 2 years ago now? 3 years ago. Sonny passed away from complications with hepatitis. Right. But he enjoyed the cannabis we were able to supply it up then, and you've been able to use it since then, so I'm happy. Now, you haven't tried a vaporizer before. Well, we have our vaporizer here today, and so I've put a little chamber of this Medicine Woman strain in here. This is the new digital volcano vaporizer. So the way it works is this. The cannabis is in there, and that little thing is a heat source. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to show you how it vaporizes. So just put that on top of the bowl, snap this to the top of the container, push the fan on. Then you wait for the fan to fill up the bag. Once the bag is full, then we will take it off. I'll put the little mouthpiece on and we'll inhale. And the thing about the vaporizer is there's no carbon monoxide.
You have to go to it, or does it come to you?
Well, we have to go to it, but it'll be real self-explanatory here in a minute. Fills up that bag, and then we just inhale it out of the bag. Because there's no burning that takes place, there's no carbon monoxide, you cough a lot less. You hardly cough at all with this. And it doesn't smell like smoking either. It smells like the fresh flowers. Like, you know, you like the smell of the fresh flowers?
Yeah.
Well, this intensifies that several times over. So take this off, take that off, put this on, and you just push this thing in and inhale like this. Yeah, you know, this vapor, smoke has hundreds of different things in it. With vapor, there's only 4 components. According to a study from Cambridge in England, it's 96% THC, 2% CBD, which is cannabidiol, that's good for pain, spasms, seizures, and glaucoma, and then 1% each of 2 different aromatic hydrocarbons. That's what gives it the flavor, those hydrocarbons. It's never too late. Here, Andrew. Andrew, chief gardener, helped raise these plants and helped get them into the ground and supervise the youngsters who were learning how to take care of them. But I know the gardeners and everybody, they say they wish they could see everybody's face when they get their cannabis. You know, they go, oh, I wish I could be there. So I said, okay, we had a big get-together yesterday where everybody who's mobile came down to the office. There were a couple people who probably we should have delivered it to, but they came anyway, and they were having a hard time. But you're one of the people we're delivering it to outside of that. I'm glad to do it. I'm glad I can't do it. And so when you vaporize it, that little chamber I put in there, which is about the equivalent of a little pen joint, it'll fill that bag up about 20 times. No. And you can set that bag aside and come back and use it 30 minutes later. So after about 3 hours or so, all the stuff condenses to the side of the bag. But, you know, if that was a bag of smoke, after 3 or 4 bags, it would turn black.
Right.
Well, this has had probably 2,000 or 3,000 bags of vapor through it. And you can see it still looks clean, pretty clean and clear. There's a little bit of a stain down toward the bottom, but not much of one. And so it's a whole lot healthier for you. So what are your medical conditions?
I have end-stage liver disease. I have a torn meniscus behind my knee. I have a compression fracture of the L1 vertebrae in my back. I fell last night. I had to get to 911 to come get me up off the floor.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully having this cannabis is going to help you feel a little bit better. What's it like when you use the cannabis in terms of your conditions?
You don't worry about your conditions for a while.
Right. Does it help with your appetite and stuff?
Oh, yeah.
And with your end-stage liver disease, it's probably pretty hard to get that going.
Yes.
Okay, well, you
Let
know.
me see now.
Yeah.
Let's see.
You want to see what you got here. It's like Christmas almost,
Yeah.
isn't it? I know, that's how we call it Halloween this year.
Well, that's a good name.
Yeah, so we've got 24 ounces, plus there's about 150 grams extra to cover the seeds and the sticks and the stems and the leaf. Because I didn't clean it off, you know.
And the law defines it as usable medicine, so
It's all big buds.
we want to make sure that you have a pound and a half of usable medicine.
Here's a nice one. They're all pretty darn nice, really. See, they're all big buds.
Look at this.
Yeah. Look at this one.
Oh, I love little hairs like this.
Oh yeah. I haven't cleaned any of it down off the stem, but I only brought you the big buds. I didn't bring any little ones. And you see it goes way down deep here. Got more. Look at this bud here. Isn't that huge there?
That's beautiful.
You got it down in here. It's all deep, see? Only big buds. You want big buds.
I can't believe it. It is crispy.
Yeah, and it's nice and dry. Perfectly cured. It was harvested 2 weeks ago last night.
Okay.
So,
You must have fun.
oh, we did. We got that on tape, too.
I would suggest,
A lot?
Well, you know, it's a once-a-year thing from outdoors.
Yeah.
So it's every October
All right.
that
I
you
hope I'm here next October.
you will be.
as well.
It's going to help you.
What is the name of the...
This is crippled rhino and a little bit of white widow. Some white widow and some crippled rhino.
I've had a white widow from Sean.
Yeah.
Oh, look at
I'm going to
that.
hold that one.
Isn't that pretty?
That one fits perfectly there.
Look at that. That's a lady-sized one.
Yeah. So I'm happy to bring you flowers.
This is beautiful ball.
I'm glad you like it. I didn't trim any of it
Wanna
down.
put that on camera?
Yeah.
Now this is what I call medicine.
All right. Well, I want to thank Judy for letting us videotape that and give an example. We'll have some more videos in the coming weeks. Our big giveaway, we had most of our patients come to our office first to get it. There were just a couple that, like her, that weren't mobile that we actually went and delivered it to. But I want to say Madeline here gave me the idea of giving each patient a pound and a half. She said that you had given your patients each a pound and a half. Oh, that's a good idea. I've got to do that too, you know. So thanks, Madeline.
You're welcome. I think it's a great idea to make it accessible to patients.
Yeah. And that's how
and
much they can legally have.
the medicine belongs to them, according
right.
to our law. It's in statute, which I think is great.
I also like the idea of the delivery system, Paul, as I'm sure you'll remember. In places like Manhattan, that's how people have gotten marijuana for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
You don't usually go to an area of town and look on the street. You have a phone number, you call up and they come to your apartment and deliver the marijuana. And so it's kind of nice that for the medical users there's a version of that going on.
Yeah, especially the mobile ones. That makes a big, big difference. If you're out there and you're watching us tonight, well, we got about 20 minutes left, and you can call us at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. Brought the old vaporizer out here, and this is what these things look like. And there's our normal show and tell. I won't go through them all, though, tonight, since we have a
And you're bringing them to the OMCA
We're
tomorrow,
going to have
aren't you?
these and more at the OMCA tomorrow. These, well, I will go through. You don't see these often, I take, Keith.
No, I
We
don't.
have, this is a full bottle of Linden Cough Balsam with cannabis indica right in it. This is a couple of containers of our homemade cannabis tincture. And actually, the cannabis tincture is something you would have found in about half of these bottles here, such as this one here. This is a 1870s, they call it lug, label under glass container. And so this would have been full of this type of tincture. These two are from Eli Lilly. Here we have cannabis tincture number 17. This one is fluid extract of cannabis number 96 from Eli Lilly.
What years were those? What years were those?
These are approximately 1880 and 1910. Eli Lilly produced them from the 1870s up to the 1920s. They had about 8 different concoctions, including one like this one right here. This is extract powdered of cannabis. This is powdered hashish, basically, or keef. So this is from Merrill and Company. And so Eli Lilly also had a version of that. I got a couple of those bottles, and in fact just got another one off eBay this week of powdered extract of cannabis from Eli Lilly. We have a large number of Park Davis ones too. This is another one from Sharp and Dome. This is a migraine medicine. We talked about how new research shows that people that have migraines are deficient in their endocannabinoid system. So these people intuitively got that, I guess, or from anecdotal evidence, and put cannabis into their migraine medicine. This one is also from Sharp and Dome, and it's a tincture. It would have had this kind of stuff in it here. It's full of this. It's our homemade tincture. And finally, this one was dug up from Tennessee, from out of the ground in Tennessee, and it's embossed on the front of it with cannabis indica, and was manufactured in Philadelphia. A lot of the pharmaceutical houses back then were there. This is the new digital volcano. My understanding is that they're going to quit importing volcanoes because the DEA held up several container loads of their products, and that the company that makes them, Stork and Bickel, has ceased shipments to the United States. So the costs of the volcanoes are now going up radically. This is a recent
They were not cheap. They were not cheap
They
already.
weren't cheap before, but now the prices are starting to go up. And so then we have something from the health food store, Hemp Plus Brownie Mix. Now this has hemp seeds in it, but our version of it, right here next door, is a medicated brownie mix that uses that Hemp Plus Brownie Mix, and we'll have to take in some brownies a little bit later, but not yet. Anyway, that's the end of our show and tell here tonight. You get to see some of our bottle collection. Our foundation has been collecting these things, and we have about 200 pieces right now. Some of the most interesting are from Johnson & Johnson, which we always associate with baby lotion and baby shampoo, and we have some cannabis extract, cannabis indica extract topical medicines from Johnson & Johnson as well.
Very interesting.
We have a caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show. Hello? Nope. Well, we tried again.
Paul, what that reminds me of with all of those pharmaceutical companies is that somehow in this country they can deal with cannabis so long as corporations can make money off of it. And I feel a little bit like that's where we're coming up. Let me take a look. We're sort of coming up to that with Sativex right now.
Right.
The reality is that's a drug that I think is going to be very effective for a lot of patients because they have 4 real ingredients that are taken out of whole marijuana. They're not synthetic, and it's not just THC.
Right. They've got CBD.
They've got flavonoids or something. I don't know. A couple of things I don't even know what are. But what we hear from patients are that mostly it's very effective. It's pretty good stuff. Now,
well, that's what I hear from our tincture too.
I was going to say the problem is it's $800 to $1,200 a month. No insurance company is going to pay for it. It's going to be like, in that sense, it'll be like Marinol. But somehow...
Well, this is very inexpensive, I can tell you that.
I was going to say, if they let us do
I've
our own,
got glaucoma patients that just do 2 or 3 drops a day, and they found gets rid of their headache, and they're able to function. And in glaucoma, they have a limited period that each medication is useful and effective for. And by using a cannabis extract in conjunction with their other drug therapy, they find that they're able to slow down their progression from one drug to another drug to another drug. And when they get to the end of that progression, then they go blind. So if they have a particularly bad case, they could go blind after 5 or 6 years. But they find that just a tiny amount of that helps.
You remember Bob Randall was the first big medical use case in America that kind of did the breakthrough, and his was glaucoma. That was his disease.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he just passed away about 5 years ago.
Yes, that's right. It's not been long ago. Bob was a real pioneer. I mean, he single-handedly almost established the medical marijuana movement in this country. I remember when he first came to NORML, frankly, because he was in D.C. too, and he was sitting in my office telling me the story, and I wasn't sure if I could believe him or not. It seemed, more than you, because back then we didn't understand that marijuana might be helpful to MS patients or whatever. This was a whole new concept, and but after you talked about it for a while, you realize this man is for real, and he's not trying to milk the system. This is a guy who's trying to save his eyesight, and he says the only thing that helps him is when he smokes marijuana. So he was growing a plant off his balcony in an apartment in D.C., and they busted him. But he got a good lawyer. They did a medical necessity defense.
And he was the first one
to
to create that compassionate.
That's right. He was the first patient that the government gave medical marijuana to because they didn't know what to do with them.
And then Bush the first cut the program off with about 28 patients in 91 or 92.
The AIDS and HIV positive community had figured out that marijuana was helpful, and they'd all begun to apply for this program. And the first Bush was not very comfortable with that community anyway. And so he just closed the program down rather than have to make a decision, do I allow HIV and AIDS patients to have medical marijuana?
So 15 years ago, he cut the program off with about 27 or 28 people, and now it's down to, what, 6 or 5?
I think 5 now.
Isn't it 5 now?
Yeah.
5.
And it's just a matter of natural death.
Yeah,
that's right.
I think we have another caller. Let's try that again. Hello, caller. Are you there?
Yes, sir, I am. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Madeline. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you guys. Quick question. In the bottle collection, Paul, it reminds me of the fact that, as you were talking about dates, 1880, back in the Civil War, we know they had tinctures and ornaments and so forth with, laudanum and cannabis and God knows what all. So we know it's been around in this country as a legitimate medicine for well over 100 years.
Yeah.
How is it then that our government has the balls, I can't put it any other way, to lie to its entire citizenry and say this stuff has no medicinal value? What about the research that was done back in the 1800s to even formulate those things, Paul?
They renamed it. They took something that everybody knew as American hemp or cannabis and said there's a deadly new drug called marijuana that causes people to go crazy and causes Mexican Americans and African Americans, of course they didn't use those terms, to attack European Americans. So based on that misinformation campaign that we today called Reefer Madness, they were able to prohibit cannabis with lies, and they continue with lies, even though we have studies like the ones we read at the top of the show, and we read it every week at the top of the show, saying about the medical efficacy of cannabis. They continue to lie and say there is no medical proof that this stuff works. And how do they get away with those lies, Keith? You're in Washington. What do you say?
I would tell you that in particular, they did one thing that was really cute. In 1970, after the Leary case had held the previous Anti-Marijuana and Anti-Drug Act unconstitutional, Congress passed the Controlled Substances Act of 1970. Now, as part of that, a positive thing, former Congressman Ed Koch, then mayor of New York, etc., radio personality today, I guess, he insisted that as part of that act, that they give some serious study as to marijuana. Is it dangerous? Is it not? And what schedule should it be on? So, when they created the Controlled Substances Act in 70, they put it on Schedule 1 and said, we're only putting it there until the Marijuana Commission comes back with a recommendation.
And that was the Schaefer Commission.
They created the Schaefer Commission. Well, the Schaefer Commission came back a year and a half later and said, decriminalize it. Not only stop arresting smokers, but allow smokers to transfer small amounts between themselves for no remuneration. That's the way smokers deal with it.
And that led to the decriminalization here in Oregon.
Oh, that's right. The reason you have 12 states.
Right when you were the head of NORML, you got
that's
to
right,
watch
the first time.
Huge breakthrough. Yeah, the first time.
But for the Schaefer Commission, that's right, there wouldn't have been a decriminalization movement. Now, unfortunately, Congress simply ignored it. They have left it on Schedule 1. Schedule 1, I'm sure you know, but there are 3 criteria, and primarily it's no accepted medical use and no safe way to use it. It's so dangerous you can't use it safely. Well, of course that's stupid. I mean, there's 100 years. Look at these bottles of medical use. There's research now showing if you inject large amounts of THC directly into brain tumors, it'll shrink brain tumors. I mean, there are incredible uses for marijuana that we didn't know about then, but we do now know about, and yet Congress still leaves it on Schedule 1. So,
exactly my point.
yeah, you're making a good point, and all I can tell you is that elected officials are terribly timid on the marijuana issue. They're always afraid someone's going to run against them who's going to be more conservative than they are, and they're going to get defeated. Now, that's not what the polls show. The polls shows 80% of the American public support medical use of marijuana. 76% of the public say even for personal recreational use, a fine only. 3 out of 4 Americans say a fine only. So why the hell did we arrest 831,000 people last year? So Congress is not listening to their own constituents.
And that's why I always say put the joint down or step away from your bong, make a phone call, write a letter, send a fax. And you know that because you always listen.
Participate in the political process.
Exactly.
And, writing our elected officials is one of the most effective things we can do. I know a handwritten letter carries particular weight when it's delivered from a constituent in a congressman or congresswoman's office.
You better believe it.
I urge all of you out there to send letters to various public authorities telling them end adult marijuana prohibition. If every cannabis smoker sent one letter a month, I think marijuana prohibition would be over in a couple of years, if not less.
I also think, by the way, that we've got to encourage smokers to come out of the closet. I'm not sure we can ever get our full political rights that we're entitled to by our numbers as long as we're in the closet. Most Americans think there are only a few people smoke marijuana. In fact, 47% of all adults in this country have smoked marijuana at some time in their life. And that data was based on a CNN Time magazine poll that's almost 5 years old. So what that tells me is there are probably more living Americans today who have smoked marijuana than who have not. And that's close to a tipping point, folks. We are close to overturning this prohibition, but the reason we haven't done it is most elected officials think nobody smokes in their district because nobody comes to them and says, I smoke marijuana, but I also am a lawyer, I'm a doctor, I work hard, you know, I raise family, I'm a good citizen. We need more marijuana smokers to come out of the closet, let their elected officials know that they are good citizens, but they also smoke marijuana. Stop treating us like criminals.
Exactly.
You know, after you and others back in the 70s were able to decriminalize cannabis, there was a backlash, the conservative backlash after Ronald Reagan became president. And so we've seen several votes recently, though. The one last year in Colorado and the other one in Nevada. They got 42% in Colorado and 44% in Nevada to end adult marijuana prohibition.
And by the way, remember in Colorado, they twice passed an initiative to totally get rid of penalties in Denver. When they went statewide, they couldn't quite get to the 50%, but they will.
Well, you know
close.
what? We have an office in Denver, as you may know, and this show, according to the polls on their cable access network in Denver, is the #1 cable access television show in the city of Denver. So,
it's a very marijuana-friendly area of the country.
Certainly is.
It certainly is.
And so we're going to try to emulate that. Madeline and I are chief petitioners on an Oregon initiative for 2010 to tax and regulate the sale of marijuana to adults and end adult prohibition of marijuana and allow it to be sold through state licensed stores. We actually designed this proposal to implement the system of controls that was mandated by the Single Convention Treaty.
Oh, yeah.
The reason for doing that is because international treaties, according to the federal courts, carry the same weight in judicial proceedings as the Constitution itself. It can therefore supersede federal law. So we think by implementing the system of controls that was mandated by the Single Convention Treaty, the one that basically made marijuana illegal across the world.
The 1961, I think it was, Single Convention
Yeah,
Treaty.
exactly.
And by the way, it was Anslinger that got the damn thing passed.
Yeah, it was one of his final legacies to us today, fortunately. I think we can use it against him by implementing those system of controls, but we'll see. We'll see. We hope to put it to a vote in 2010.
I think the important thing is that whatever system of legalization we eventually propose, and I love the idea that you guys are pushing one here for 2010, it's important that we always allow the consumer to grow their own. Yeah. So if the marijuana they're selling isn't strong enough, or if they're charging too much money, or they're taxing it too much, I'll grow my own.
Exactly. And our proposal definitely would allow adults to grow their own, and it directs the state to purchase and to supply cannabis to meet market demand.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, most of us are not going to grow our own. We're going to do like alcohol. You can make 50 gallons of alcohol, but we buy it.
Makes the seeds and starts of all strains of cannabis legal and unregulated. So that's another way to free it up that we looked at.
Well, I look forward to seeing that proposal make the ballot out.
We're going to try. I think we can do it. So we'll see. There's a whole list of conditions there which would qualify you for medical marijuana. If you think you might have one of those and you need help finding a doctor who can help you get that here in the Portland area, give us a call at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. Up in Seattle, the number is 206-878-1701. That's 206-878-1701. If you're in the city of Denver, Colorado, our office is right outside of Denver in Wheat Ridge. You can call us at 303-403-9996. That's 303-403-9996. We just opened a new office down in Riverside, California, right on the edge of San Bernardino, which they've been fighting medical marijuana down there. We're going to take it to them. And if you're outside of the Denver, Portland, or Seattle metropolitan area, you can call us toll-free at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. We can refer you to dozens of doctors all across the state of California, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, and Hawaii, and coming soon to Nevada.
Wow.
So there you have it.
Pretty exciting.
It is.
Well, I want to encourage everyone out there to please come out and attend the Oregon Medical Cannabis Awards, get more educated about marijuana. We're going to have, Keith is going to be on our legal panel. We are going to be having a legal panel from 1 to 5 p.m., so come on out and listen to all the new information about the law. Find out about the rule proposals. Find out about everything marijuana.
And lawyers can get continuing legal education credits to keep their license
continuing education.
Great. I want to thank you, Madeline, and thank
1
you,
p.m.
Keith, for coming on our show this evening. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, it's my privilege. It's really great being here. I'm looking terribly forward to this. I've been hearing about what Oregon NORML's doing for a number of years, and it's my first chance to see it firsthand, so I'm terribly excited to be here.
Well, I've been very excited to have you on our show tonight.
Thank you
it's a real honor. Thank you for coming.
My
thank
pleasure.
you, Madeline, for bringing him in here. That's great.
Well,
Really appreciate it. And thank you, viewers, for keep watching. Remember to tune in next week. We'll help you restore hemp. And here's Mr. Tim Pate to take us out.